I've had tons of people ask me to do a video on this, so I'm just going to make one. I'm going to show you how to install a TAPP Airsoft trigger. This is the cut face. This is my personal favorite. This is what I have in my M4. It stays in the trigger guard. You have to get one that's specifically for the V12. You can get version 2 ones that'll fit like Polar Star jacks, and pretty sure they fit Fusion engines as well. This is specifically for the V12, and you'll be able to tell because of this huge lip on the back. It'll also say in the description, of course. I don't think it says in the package, but it's dyed blue color. They could originally come white, and it says TA on the top for TAPP Airsoft. So, I'm just going to assume you have your engine out of your gun. If you don't know how to take your engine out of the gun and you put it in there, well, I don't know what to tell you. Most of you people will know how to take the engine itself out of the body of your gun. So, first thing you want to do is pull off the cap, which is extremely tight on this one. This is the new version V12. I have one of the older ones over there that's going in a guy's Scar. This one is the newer one. It's going into a KWA M4, which is going to be fun to fit because, you know, with the split hop-up type stuff, I've heard people say they've done it before, so I'll give it a try. I'm not going to tell the customer no. So I'll figure that out. I am also installing a new bucking into his gun. Other than that, nothing's changing. I was gonna just do I was just gonna Sugru hop his barrel, but I ended up getting a maple leaf 50-degree bucking for him. So we'll try that out. If it doesn't shoot well, then of course I will go ahead and Sugru hop, but we'll give that one a try first. So you take out the 6 screws, just pull the shell off, and pretty much you have access to everything in here. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you how to put the trigger in. I have other things to do. I got to put the QEV and poppet shim in. I'm not going to show you guys how to do that. This is just strictly for the trigger. So the trigger, you have the micro switch here. You want to be careful not breaking that. I've never broken one, and I've been pretty rough with some of them. There it is, stock trigger. I have tons of these laying around. I've got one up here, one here. There's 3 right there. That just shows you that I do tons of these V12s. I know there's another one back behind me in that drawer. I saw it earlier yesterday. Okay, so here's the spring. Trigger spring can be bent to be a little bit less powerful. That's what I did with mine. So this, I'm going to show you how to perfect your trigger pull. This is the trigger pull on my M4, my V12 M4. I have shortened it, and I'm doing literally everything I did with that to this. So it's going to be literally perfect. So what I do is I bend that spring a little bit the other way. Of course, the way it sits in there goes on the trigger, and it hits the lip on the shell. Yeah, definitely can use some shimming on this. It's pre-shimmed, but you could still do some more. Alright, so the first step to shortening the trigger pull, you're going to need some heat shrink. So you can cut off just a portion of the heat shrink. Alright, so I went ahead and used a smaller piece of heat shrink instead. It's going to slide over the micro switch. You can use the bigger piece too. It's pretty tight on there. I'm just going to heat it up a little bit. Now this is, don't have a battery connected. I've done this probably with 8 different engines, and I've never actually like damaged the electronics by using a lighter. You just want to hit it with the lighter real quick and then kind of blow it off because you don't want to damage it because it is plastic. You can melt that, so you don't want to do it for very long. But I've done that, like I said, probably 8 times and never damaged anything. So what that's doing is just basically shortening the travel a little bit. That's gonna do a little bit for you there. So again, a piece of heat shrink on the micro switch itself. Then I use a folded piece of heat shrink. Okay, so I can see that the trigger pull is actually pretty short. The play is pretty short, but I'm just going to shorten it just a tiny bit. And how I'm going to do that is, alright, so I'll just put the heat shrink on here, and now heat it up. a little bit. I pull it off and then I'm going to squish it. So it's going to be flat. Okay, that might be too much. That's too much material, especially when you heat it up and squish it. It'll be a little bit thicker than what it was before. It's not as pliable, it seems. Alright, so there I just cut it in half. So it's literally half the material. And what I'm going to do with that is then I'm just going to glue it, put it on the back of the trigger. Alright, it can be a pain because the piece is too thick and it'll hang over the ledge kind of. So I cut it smaller. So this one's about the right size of the ledge itself. And you can use you don't want to use your fingers because first of all, glue on your fingers sucks. Plus, if it sticks to your fingers, you'll rip it off. So you kind of can use a screwdriver and just get the excess glue away. But and you kind of want to pat it down because with the 2 sheets it was too much material, so you don't want that glue to have a whole lot of space underneath there to take up. Unless you're actually, pole needs to be shortened even more. But most of the time, what I do here is just that little, with the pre-shimmed, you just need the little layer right there, and then a piece of heat shrink in there to be, insanely short. As short as you can get with one of these flexible triggers, at least. To put the engine together with the trigger itself, you just be careful with the micro switch, because it kind of hangs down a little low, and it'll hit the trigger and kind of get in the way. So just be careful not to totally destroy it. Like I said, I've never damaged one of these micro switches beyond use. One time, one of my friends was just pulling the trigger, and his micro switch somehow disconnected. And what happened to it? Yeah, it hung down past the trigger, and I was like, what the heck? So I just had to push it up and align the pin on it. And he's never had that issue again, so that was really interesting. That was a while ago, too. Alright, you're not going to get much shorter than that. Now, you have a little bit of play behind it, but that's always going to happen. The pole itself is insanely short, which is good, So that's how you installed the trigger itself. I've got to put some other upgrades, QEV and Pop It shim in there. Make sure everything's clean on the inside as well. So yeah, that's how you install the V12 trigger. That goes for any trigger. That's how you take the engine apart and basically put a trigger in there. You can use different triggers in these, but you have to modify them. So you could use a standard AEG trigger, but you're going to have to modify it, and you can get those to be pretty dang short too. So just kind of think. All you got to do is think, how do I get the micro switch to be hit with the shortest pull? And you can come up with something. Just make sure it's sturdy. So if you have heat shrink, try to glue it there or heat it so it sticks because you don't want it just to be loose in there. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Listen to that rate of fire.